I feel I owe Israel or Suli a response, or I need to expand on what I said earlier. How can one take a rabbi seriously who, when the Rasha, Naftali Bennett, joined the government after getting himself, he didn't join a government, I'm sorry, he formed a government in a completely dishonest and untruthful manner, after not only promising but also signing a document saying he would not do X, Y, and Z, which then he immediately went on to do. And for the first time in Israeli history, a party that received 6 seats in the Knesset formed a government entirely with only one aim in mind, and that is to make himself prime minister and prevent Netanyahu being prime minister. Not that I'm a great fan of Netanyahu, but he's certainly better than Bennett. So Bennett formed a government by doing what? By joining forces with the Meshumadim and the Erev Rav, that is to say, with Meretz and what remains, the crumbs of the Labour Party that remain, or whatever it is. And, of course, with the Islamo-Nazis, with the Ishmaelim. So, this individual, this Rasha, Naftali Bennett, imposed himself on the Jewish people as a prime minister, deliberately and knowingly, by joining forces with the most evil elements within the Jewish people, and with the explicit and self-proclaimed enemies of the Jewish people, such as Mahmoud Abbas. That's his name, isn't it? Mahmoud Abbas? Mansour Abbas, who is a card-carrying member of the Muslim Brotherhood, which is the organization set up 100 years ago in Egypt in order to impose radical Islam on the entire world, beginning with the Jews, of course. Well, not so much to impose Islam on them, but to kill them first, and then impose it on anyone who's left. That's what the Muslim Brotherhood is all about. Mansour Abbas is a card-carrying member, by his own admission, of the Muslim Brotherhood. Everybody knows this. Certainly Naftali Bennett knew it. And that rabbi that you mentioned earlier, or that was mentioned earlier, and other rabbis, I don't want to mention their names, no reason to foul my mouth with their names, did not have any word at all to say about what this person, Naftali Bennett, did. They didn't have a problem with that. They didn't call him out, they didn't criticize him, they didn't condemn him. On the other hand, a year or two before that, when the then head of what remained of what was called the Beit HaYehudi, which is one of the fragments, ricocheted fragments that remain of the Mafdal, that was called the Beit HaYehudi, which was led at that time by someone called Rafi Peretz. And Rafi Peretz understood that his electoral chances were not very good, but just an objective assessment of the reality. So he thought it was wise not to form one party with Otzma Yehudit, led by Itamar Ben Gvir. No, it was Ben Gvir. But by creating what's called an electoral bloc. In other words, there were two parties, just like Otzma Yehudit ran in one electoral bloc with Hatzilut Datit, and they formed one electoral bloc, and they divided the list, etc., whatever. We don't have to go into all the technicalities, but you understand, it's not forming one party, it's two separate parties that run together for electoral reasons. Fine, okay. Rafi Peretz, at that time head, this is what, 5-6 years ago? Something like that. Perhaps 7 years by now, I'm not sure. He thought it would be a good idea to form some kind of electoral bloc with Otzma Yehudit in order for both of them to get into the Knesset and not waste votes, and not, because every wasted vote is simply giving 2 votes into the hands of the Islamo-Nazis and the Erev Rav. That's simple mathematics. That's arithmetic. As soon as certain rabbis whose names will not be mentioned, heard about this possibility, which never came into fruition, they immediately announced that this party known as Habayit HaYehudi is kvar lo habayit sheli. I could not possibly have anything to do with that party any longer because they're Kahanists. And Kahanists, of course, are evil people because they think that perhaps we shouldn't have Islamo Nazis living amongst us, or for whatever other reason they may come up with. It's hard to know exactly what exactly they did wrong in the eyes of these denizens of morality and morals and aesthetics. So about that they had everything to say. Both that rabbi that was mentioned and other people, they had plenty to say. The very thought, the suggestion was enough to elicit from them all kinds of very unpleasant statements. But when someone like Naftali Bennett does such a thing, not a word. How anyone can take such a person seriously and consider them to be upright, moral and intelligent, and in some way, somehow aligned with the Torah, I'm very sorry, I cannot understand such a thing. Would my learned colleague agree?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay.
Sometimes you have people, though, they still have their expertise in something. You know, they might be totally off in their scoffers.
No, I'm just not suggesting that so-and-so is not expert in this or that, but that's nothing to do with it.
Yeah. It's like, what is it? Rabbi Meir could still learn a thing or two from Acher. Oh.
If a doctor thinks it's a wonderful idea to perform irreversible and criminal sex change operations on 12-year-old girls, for example,
he's nuts.
That doesn't mean he's not a good surgeon.
Yeah.
He may be an excellent surgeon, but he's a perverted criminal. He deserves to be hanged by the neck until dead. That's clear, but that's nothing to do with, has in no way a comment on his abilities as a doctor. The same is true here. A person may be able to give a correct psak when it comes to basar b'halav, or something else, or making tea on Shabbat, or what have you, but nevertheless completely bereft of any true understanding of the most fundamental things in the Torah. Unfortunately, these things seem to be able to reside together.
Is it actually increasing nowadays? This phenomenon, the appearance of such individuals is increasing.
I think so, yes. Absolutely. You had a running debate with this so-called Orthodox rabbi in New York, I believe, or he's now moved here.
Yes.
To do with this, with the recent war against the Islamo Nazis. No.
Yeah, he moved during the war.
All right. So what is there to discuss? What was his view, that we were doing something incorrect, fighting our sworn enemies, who are by any definition Amalekim l'chol davar ve'inyan? I mean, what is there to discuss? So where is this person? And what is he basing his ideas? Nothing to do with Torah. He's basing ideas on what he reads in the New York Times, or what he gleaned from this or that talk show, or whatever it may be. But there's nothing to do with Torah. Absolutely nothing to do with Torah. But a person who expresses such views which harm the Jewish people and weaken us, it's not a far stretch to begin to discuss whether such a person has a din of Rodef. Certainly has a din of Malshin and a Mazik, blis from Sefek Ba'olam.
Shemodim, maybe.
Oh, it's precisely because of such people that Benjamin Netanyahu was unable now to fly to Germany to speak to the German Chancellor. And that's why the German Chancellor was here today, to speak to Netanyahu, because Netanyahu can't travel to Germany because there's a warrant for his arrest from the so-called International Court of Justice, whatever they call themselves, the ICJ or something ludicrous. But it's because such people express these views, not to mention the Patzmarit and the Yoamashit and all the rest of them. That's why there is such a warrant. That's why such things are being said, because they're saying, well, even this Orthodox rabbi says so. Why would you think that I'm anti-Semitic or unreasonable? Not at all. Look, Rabbi so-and-so says the same thing.